Here's a general guideline for how to solve an applied problem. The first step is to read the problem, of course, but that doesn't just include reading the problem. You need to look for any information that's being given, as well as any information that you're asked to find. Also, as part of this step, you may want to draw a picture or make a chart or do anything that you need to do to help you understand the problem better. The second step is to assign a variable. Determine what your unknown quantities are and determine which one of them would be best suited to be your variable, because we're only going to want one variable. Notice that a sub-step here is to express other unknowns using that same variable. So select your variable to make it easier to express the remaining unknowns using that same variable. Once you've done that, then the next step would be to write an equation. And going on from there, we would solve the equation. We can check the solution. You should always check your solution in the original equation, as well as against the original wording, just to see if it's reasonable or makes sense. And finally, answer the question, because the solution to the equation may not be the answer or may not be the complete answer to the question. Here's a simple example to illustrate. I have twice as many children as my brother. Altogether, we have a total of 6 children. How many children does each of us have? And it's pretty easy to figure this out without doing any algebra, but we're going to apply the steps to see how they would work out in this example, so that when we get to more complicated examples, we can have a better understanding of how to apply the steps there. So the first step is to read. We've just read it, and what information do we know? We know that my brother and I each have children, and I have twice as many. Then we also know that the total number is 6, and that is all we know. So we can use that to assign our variable and also to write our equation. So to assign our variable, the unknown quantity, well, there are 2 unknown quantities, how many children I have and how many children my brother has. So to decide which one of them should be the variable, should it be my children or my brother's children? Well, up here it says I have twice as many children as my brother. So the most natural way to do it is to say, let x equal the number of my brother's children, because then the number of my children is going to be twice that. Well, twice a number is 2 times that number, so 2 times x is the number of my children. And those are our 2 unknown quantities. Now that we have a variable or a variable expression to describe each one, we're going to write an equation. The only piece of information left that we haven't used is that we have a total of 6 children, which means if I put mine and my brother's together, they're going to add up to 6. My children is 2x. My brother's children is x. And so there's our equation. 2x plus x equals 6. The next step, of course, is to solve the equation. We can simplify. 2x plus x is 3x, and then divide by 3. And we get that x equals 2. Let's check that solution in our original equation to make sure that we didn't make a mistake. So substitute 2 in for x everywhere it occurs and see if I get 6. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. So it does check. The final step now is to answer the question. The answer to the question is not simply 2. X equals 2, and X represents the number of children my brother has. So my brother has 2 children. And furthermore, the question also asks how many children I have. 2x is how many I have, and 2x, since x is 2, would be 2 times 2, or 4. So I have 4 children. A second example. Sean has 35 marbles. He has the same number of red marbles as he has green marbles. He has 1 more blue than green. He has 2 fewer purple than green. These are all the colors. How many of each color does he have? Well, we are told the total number of marbles is 35, and we are told information about the various colors. And notice that they are all related to the number of green marbles. So to assign our variable, we should probably choose the number of green marbles. I will let G equal green. Now, we find expressions for all the other colors. Well, the number of red is the same as the number of green. So red is also equal to G. The number of blue is 1 more than the number of green. That means G plus 1 is going to be blue. And there are 2 fewer purple than green. So 2 fewer means G minus 2. Okay, we have now assigned our variable as well as written expressions for all of our other unknown quantities. How many of each color does he have? To find this, we need to write the equation. The equation, of course, is going to come from the fact that the total equals 35. And the total means I'm just going to add all of these up. G plus G plus G plus 1 plus G minus 2 equals 35. Now that we have the equation, we solve it. So in this one, we simplify. G plus G plus G plus G is 4G. 1 minus 2 is a negative 1, so 4G minus 1 equals 35. Now we can isolate our variable term. 4G equals 36. Now we can isolate our variable by dividing by 4, and we have G equals 9. We can check that. 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 1 plus 9 minus 2 gives us 9 plus 9 is 18, 27, 28, plus 9 is 37, minus 2 makes 35. It checks. So we answer the question. There are 9 green marbles, 9 red marbles, 9 plus 1 makes 10 blue marbles, and 9 minus 2 makes 7 purple marbles. Notice that 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 10 is 28, plus 7 is 35. Here's one more example. Meg has $780 to spend on a new refrigerator. What is the maximum price she can afford before the 6% sales tax is applied? In other words, she can't buy a refrigerator that costs $780 because once the tax is applied, that will exceed her budget. So how much can she afford? Well, what do we know and what is unknown? What we know is the total amount that she has, $780. We do not know the maximum price of the refrigerator. That's what we need to find. We also don't know the amount of the tax. However, the amount of the tax depends on the price of the refrigerator. So we'll let our variable be the price before tax, and then the tax is going to be 6% of the price. So that will be 0.06 times P. Okay? So then the price plus the tax equals $780. That will give us the maximum price that she can afford. Price is P. The tax is 0.06 P. And together they equal 780. There's our equation. Solving it, we simplify. 1p plus 0.06p makes 1.06p. And then we divide on both sides by 1.06. And we find that p is equal to 735.849 to 3 decimal places. So the maximum price she can afford would be $735.84. You could round it up to 85 cents. However, that's technically more than the maximum price, and so she would end up being a penny over. So the best answer is $735.84.